Okay, so here I've got my second clip of Rebecca, and I've just duplicated it and put it in the plane below. This is because the blue stripes on her cheek came out quite green on camera, so I need to just mask that to get rid of that. So I've just dragged a keyer onto both of the layers, and I've put a draw mask on the bottom layer. And then with my draw mask, I'm just going to add the key points that I need. I'm making most of the ones on the right hand side curves so then I can fit them to her face. And then for this first frame, I'm just lining it up, trying to get all the curves in the right place. And just having a fiddle around until I get the mask where I need it. Right, so now that I have the mask in place, I'm going to my first frame and adding a key point, or a keyframe rather, and just dragging the mask into position. And then taking the next frame and going along until the first bit of blue comes into shot, and just putting the mask over that so you can see the blue. And then doing the same for the next frame. And the same for the next frame. And then I've just made a time lapse of doing this for the whole entire clip. Alright, so now that I have my mask keyframed and all in place, what I'm going to do now is find the picture of a spaceship that I used in shot 12 and just selecting all of that and then dragging it into the bottommost plane and lining it up with the rest of my shots. And that all looks good, so now the next step is to add a draw mask onto the top layer, because on this layer I need to make Becca's eyes black as well. So what I'm going to do here is again add my control points. And I then realised that I need to mask both layers for the eyes, so I put a mask on the bottom layer as well and put in my control points. And this took me a little while to figure out how to do this step. So now, because Becca's eye in this shot is so small, what I need to do is zoom in very close and find where it is, and then drag it over to her eye. So I'm just bringing all the control points over to where her eye is. And then doing the same for the mask on the bottom. I actually did this quite a long and complicated way, because I didn't realise that with the bottom layer I could just make it as big as it needed to be for the entire time, like for the whole movement of her face, and then just move the top layer with her eye. But I didn't actually realise this until I did the second eye. So this was quite a tedious process. So I'm just putting all the control points in place for the first frame, making her eye black. And then for this whole process I just had to keep switching between moving the bottom frame and then moving the top frame and then the bottom one. So it took quite a long time. So there I just added a key point. And then I think I feathered this a little bit, just so it's not such a harsh line and it blends in more with her skin. And now I'm just moving the mask for the next frame and doing the same for the whole video. And so here is the finished clip with her eyes masked. Okay, so for this next clip, what I'm going to do is find just a plain black frame, and I'm going to put this into the timeline between the two layers of Becca and the green screen background. Right, so now I'm just dragging a draw mask onto the plain black plane, and then I'm just going to add my control points, and this is so that Becca's eyes will stay black and not just be like the colour, the image of the background behind her. They'll just be plain black. So as usual with all of my rotoscoping, I'm dragging the key points into place over where her eyes are, and then just adjusting this for the first frame, so that, because I don't want to cover up any of my background. And then here's a time lapse of me just moving it along and key pointing the mask with every frame so that her eyes stay black but not the background. So now that I've masked her eyes and made them black, this is what it looks like. So now what I'm going to do is go into the lights section. And here I was trying to move the background around a bit, but it didn't really work. So I just put it back to normal. So now I'm going into lights and adding artifacts over the top of the background. And I'm just making the opacity really low, almost like 1%. And just adding that in the background so that it looks more alive rather than just a still image. And then doing the same, adding the same effect onto Becca's face. So now I'm dragging a colour correcting filter onto Becca's face and opening that up, and again, as I did with shot 12, I'm just fiddling with the different options to make her blue. Okay, so now that I have the colours how I like them, or just adding a few little tweaks. And I'm then going to do the same thing on the other layer of Becca's face. And since there's a little bit of blue that's appeared at the top of the screen, I'm just going to zoom the shot in ever so slightly, just so that it hides that. And that all looks good. So the last thing that I have to do is combine all of my different planes into one compound clip. And then put one last colour correcting filter on top of that. And go into the presets and change it to Winter Sun. And then just turn the exposure up a tiny bit so it's a bit brighter. And I'm just comparing that to shot 12 so that the colouring is consistent the whole way through. And that looks good. So here is my finished shot.